Have you ever wondered, what does it take to win? What about, can I really do this? Or would somebody please just give me the roadmap to get to the end results? Well, this is what we're going to discuss on today's episode of the Clark Connection podcast. We'll have special guest, Coach Sid Edwards, on here today, and we're going to talk about the highs and lows of leadership, as well as how to deal with taking on new challenges. But first, I want to give a huge shout out to my sponsors, Bobbie with the Comfy Quest LLC, Andrew with Automate Integrate Professional Services, and Wayne with 7K Metals. Look, all of their contact information is listed below. If you'd like to connect with me, you can reach out to me on all social media, Coach_A_Clark, or via my website, and I'll get back with you within 24 to 48 hours. Now, let's get to it.
This is the Clark Connection Podcast, your weekly dose of inspiration and power. We'll dive deep into the stories and strategies that ignite personal growth and entrepreneurial fire. Join us as we empower you to take control, level up your leadership, and build the life you deserve. Get ready to rise, to thrive, and to finally become the leader of your own destiny. Let's go.
Alrighty, guys, we have on the show today very, very special guest, that friend of mine, mentor, that Coach Sid Edwards, also running for the mayor, the president of East Baton Rouge Parish. Coach Sid, welcome to the show, man.
Man, I'm honored to be here, Coach. And yeah, to all you listeners, it is Coach Aaron Clark. That's how I know him mainly. So thank you for having me, my friend.
Oh, my pleasure. As my shows focus a lot on leadership and growth and personal development and such, I said, hey, I got to get Coach Sid on and talk. You were one of the first guys to really get me started, and so I know I've told the guys, or the listeners, that the first person that ever asked me, like, what you reading, what you doing, and I was like, hey, what do you mean, what am I reading and doing? I'm a football coach. Football, who you nerds read. So this is the guy that asked me, guys. So it wasn't. And so it's been a huge influence on me and many other people. And so, Coach, just kind of quickly, how did it all get started? How did you get into the coaching game? What led you there to start going in your leadership journey and to start developing leaders?
Well, I'm 61 years old, and my first coaching job I was 16. The neighborhood softball team, my sisters were playing, and no one would coach them. They didn't have a coach. So I said, I'll do it. And from there, it led to, at 20, coaching Little League football. Well, when you look at the whole process from a 16-year-old softball coach to Little League football coach, I coached third and fourth graders, fifth and sixth graders, missed the seventh and eighth grade group, went to freshman at Catholic High School in Baton Rouge, and then on to high school and a stint in college for basketball. And really, the way it went, the way I coach and what I do, I didn't write the book on coaching. There's a lot of guys that forgot more football than I do, but I've used athletics, and I'd say football, that's the main sport I coach, but I've used athletics as a vehicle to lead young people, to change lives, to set them up for life. And it's worked well for me. Along the way, we were blessed to win a lot of games and have a lot of success and some championships, but I've just never measured myself by that. You can't lay rings at the feet of Jesus. And that's kind of been my mantra, but that's how I got in it. When I was 16, 17, coaching that softball team, I can't say that, hey, I'm going to be a coach the rest of my life. But it wasn't long after that I realized it was my calling.
And so who would you say are some of your influences? So I know that when we all started out as a young coach, it was like we measured the success by the W's and L's.
Right.
Who was it that you would say was, as one of my mentors, especially when I was young and getting in, who was it that helped that really shape that you moving forward with that?
Well, my dad, for one, Dad helped coach. He was a plant worker, And I have to start there. But in professionally, it was probably my Catholic High years. Glenn Rando, who was the head basketball coach, was the guy that brought me over to Catholic High. I was 23. Dale Weiner, Jerry Garridell, Joe LeBlanc, Pete Boudreau, and that group of guys that were leading Catholic High in the mid 80s were just some of the most phenomenal men you'd ever meet. And I learned, so much from them during those years. And I credit that group of guys, which, led me to where I'm at today.
Oh, absolutely. They talk about a list of legends that you just threw out there in the high school coaching arena here in Louisiana. All great men. I've actually had the pleasure of meeting most of them. And I know I've heard you talk about a few of them before. So, man, that's awesome. And so what were things that you did that as, because, leadership's tough. But what are things like that you did with helping to develop those young men and young women into the leaders on the teams?
Well, the first thing was here again, trying to get kids to lead themselves for sure. But the ultimate goal was for them to lead into the future. And, one name I didn't leave out was a gentleman named Father Joe Steffes, a Redemptorist priest, who I met during my Redemptorist years. He was 94 years old. And where those other guys taught me a lot about character and leading and X's and O's, Father Joe became a really deep mentor to me on how you do things and how you treat people. Anybody that's ever played for me, I hope they feel this way. I've had some great athletes, some guys that went on to the NFL, NBA, whatever, but I want the guy who, I want to use the term bench warmer, but wasn't very good in football, but was being a part of a team was big, being something bigger than yourself. And because you'll hear the stories of the Warwick Dunns and the Jay Lucases and all, all those guys. But man, one of my greatest proud moments is those that are now doctors, lawyers, postmen, welders, plant workers, firemen, in every act of life. And then to see those guys, become good, fathers and husbands, that's a big reward, with that. And Father Joe helped develop me and taught me into, how to use these athletics more effectively to accomplish those things.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned him because I love the one story you told me after a game, you probably told everybody that one about that with Father Joe coming in after y'all just beat the brakes off of somebody. And I was like, I don't remember exactly how you said it, but I thought that was a very instrumental to think about, to make sure everybody's having fun. They make it fun for everyone involved.
That's what I learned, Aaron. It was crazy. We were playing a team and we were superior to them. And it was 60-something-0 at half. And we had only scored like 3 offensive touchdowns. This poor, I'm not going to mention them, but they were pitiful. And we would just fall into the end zone. We weren't like galloping up and down the field. It just happened. And it was halftime. And Father Joe caught me as I was walking into the field house at halftime and gave me an earful about how I should be ashamed of myself. He even took it to mass on Sunday and told the congregation, I'm getting with Coach Sid because he beat this poor team. So sure enough, Monday morning, he came to my office and it was 65-0 at half. It ended up 72-0. So I tell you, we scored 1 touchdown in the second half, played everybody. But the point, I couldn't explain that to him. For a priest, he was a fiery old guy. But the point he made was, you can win. You're a winner when you can win, and your team feels really good about it, and so does the opponent. And I learned that. And over the years, if I was in a position again to control a game as such, I don't think anyone ever played us that didn't leave feeling good. I'm talking about the 50 to nothing games. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Those, you know, and I learned that, you know, especially high school athletics, is there is a way that both teams can win. You know, because I've been on the other side of that too now. When you don't have an answer and you can't stop the other team, and you're just saying, okay, give us a little breather here, help us. So that's the story I had told you. I think that's the one you're referring to back
Yeah.
when.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, that I forgot about it until you just said it, and I was like, oh yeah, that's that. They probably, because I mean, you do have some of those sometimes where you're just like, man, that's my fifth string running back. How do I tell him not to score?
Right. But we learned how to do it.
Yes. Yes. And so I think that was one of the things that I was able to take away with working with you, was, you know, how you treated everybody. And I know one that I loved that you did was the Men for Others. You know, I always look for those opportunities to help others in the community, whatever it was. And so, like, how did you come about coming to that idea of just like, hey, we're just going to start doing this?
Well, my entire career we've done that. You know, we teach the young boys and ladies that I coach, you know, about service. But where I got a better perspective of it, I was the head football coach at Jesuit High School in New Orleans in 2004, 2006. And they had a program built into their school, Men for Others. So I kind of stole it from there. But it was way more comprehensive than what I had been doing, you know, because we're learning every day. You know, we learn how to do things. So I took that Men for Others mantra and took it to Central High School, which was my next stop. And man, it blossomed, it bloomed. We have done everything from getting cats out of trees to cutting down trees to cutting grass, painting houses. Let's remember, I was at Central during the 2016 flood.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just what we do. I had a lot of players at Central during that time, say 80 or 90, and we would divide them up into teams, and we were on call. You know, especially you got to look the early part of Central becoming its own city, you know, the early part. And we have done some really wacky things. That's for sure. And there were times we would be like, well, wait a minute, we got to do some football at some point. You know, you got guys, you know, helping people move. We had, you know, less fortunate families providing food and clothing, all the way to washers and dryers and refrigerators. And I think it's an important part of our program that we do that. And that's how it came to be, and it caught on. And because sometimes you know, people just need help and they don't know where to turn. And how grateful people would be. You know, a tree fell and it crushed a carport, and we go in and we chop it up, we haul it off, stand the carport back up. None of us were skilled enough to fix the carport, but we could get it cleaned out for them. So anything you can imagine. And that's how we came up with the name.
Yeah, no, it was a wonderful program. I mean, I knew I was because I mean, you gave me my first coaching gig, and I remember that we were at spring football, and there was a yard next to the field, and you were like, all right, guys, she hadn't had her yard cut. Can I get two of y'all to just go? And there were like 5 guys that ran over there and started cutting this lady's yard. And I was like, what in the world is going on here?
Yeah, that's the beautiful stuff. And the truth is, the boys are going to remember some games. They're going to remember big wins. But more than that, they're going to remember those things. Like you remembered it, right? You were a coach, but you know, if I asked you what happened in week 3 of the 2008 season against Santa Ma or whatever, I don't remember. I might remember who won, but no details. But those kids will remember doing that type work and how grateful people were.
Right. Oh, no doubt. Yeah, I was gonna say I remember that Sandoval game because that was the first time I ever went there, and Mike Gardner got me to stand by the cannon. Not a fun
He tricked
experience.
you. Yeah, he tricked you. Yeah, that thing's brutal. Yes, I trust me. I never get used to it.
No, you never do. You never do. Now, as now with going and going back to like first head coach gig, young leader coach Sid, that now that veteran leader coach Sid, what would you say is the biggest lesson you learned from that first head coaching gig? And we'll say professional, the high school coaching, not the softball, but because that it's different. It's different.
Yeah, I've learned an awful lot, but I think the biggest thing I've never early on, I thought too much of myself. You know, especially my early years, winning was that was the bottom line. Now I didn't sacrifice my morals or principles or character, anything to win, but it it, it, I took it so hard when we didn't win, and I looked at myself like, man, what am I doing wrong? If we weren't having a good game or a good season and all that. But the biggest thing I've learned since then is the big picture and the stuff we're talking about and what really matters. Don't get me wrong, I still hate losing. I'm competitive. I don't want to lose. I love winning still, but I know how to measure victory differently now. Um, I'm the head football coach at Estruma High School right now,
Yes, sir.
and we win daily. We lose daily, but we win daily. And what I mean by that is when you're mentoring the kids and a light goes off in their head over a certain subject or how they handle themselves in a conflict, those are wins. And I cherish those more than I did than the 23-year-old Sid Edwards did, you know. And one thing I'll say to young coaches out there, as well as young leaders, is it can't be about you. There's too many in our profession that it's about them. And they live and die on every touchdown or every victory on the field. And it's not about us. If you're going into my business and for what I've done my entire life, it can't be about you. And that would be the best advice I could give, to anyone. You hear it all the time, not just in coaching. Here, we're for the kids. It's about the kids. Aaron, that quite often is a lie. It's easy to say, but to do it is a whole different matter, And yeah. I work very hard to make it that it is about those young men.
Yeah, and it is because it's naturally, like you said, it's a competitive sport. We're competitors. We want to win, and so we want people to go, hey, look at old Coach Clark.
Right.
Yeah, good job, Coach Clark. Yeah, tell Coach Clark what a good job he's doing. No, don't talk to me when I'm losing. Don't tell me how bad a job I'm doing.
Exactly.
And now, what would you say was the biggest shift for you leadership wise? I know you started off position coach. That's where almost 100% of us start off as a position coach, and then moving into that head coach role. Like, what was the biggest shift for you there as far as that?
Well, the head coach's seat is different than any other seat. I mean, I've just been blessed that in my career, I've only been an assistant 3 years in my career. Nicholls State, 1 year at Central, because I was the head freshman coach at Calicut. So that's about it. But the seat of the head coach is so different. And here's what you get too, okay? Like with the hiring of coaches, high school coaching jobs open up and, people apply for them. And the young coaches I've worked with, I try to tutor them and talk to them about what they expect. But until you get in this seat, you have no idea. Everything falls back on the head guy. And you got this too with head coaching positions is people will apply for them and you'll get this back. And this goes in the business world as well, I'm sure.
Mhm.
And it's, well, he don't have no experience. He's never been a head coach. Well, here's the stat. Every head coach that ever became a head coach wasn't a head coach at one point. Think about that. Coach Kelly at LSU at some point was an assistant, and he got his first head coaching job. So much is too much is made of to me of experience, you know. And so many people, there's trends in my profession. You know, the Miami Dolphins head coach, I don't remember his name. You know, I think he's 18 years old, but he's a young guy. So a lot of people go to, you know, they have the youth movement. Then people say, no, we want a seasoned veteran, you know. And so from this head coaching seat, just know that when you get in it, it's completely different, because now you're responsible for it all. And the most important thing is you're responsible for those kids. And every kid that plays has, if not one set of eyes, a couple of set of eyes, only worried about them. So it's the hardest thing as the head guy. Right? The position, the OC's worried about offense, the DC's worried about defense, the special team guy's worried about what he's worried about. The mom and dad in the stands are worried about little buddy. Okay. But the head coach has to worry about it all. So that's the biggest difference.
Yeah. Oh, and I think that's the hardest one. And you said it earlier. It's not about you. It
Right.
really isn't, as the leader. It's your job to make sure you facilitate that, to allow your people who are under you to work and get the job done. And they essentially make or break you from that.
Yes.
You know, so I think that was one that I took. I don't know if you remember that when we first met, for my very first interview. I just remember being nervous as all get out and still not out of college. I dressed a whole lot better than I am right now. You know, had tie, like suit tie, and I got in there and it was like you, Doug Dotson, Frank Fresina, and Double D.
Right.
And we didn't talk a lick of football.
You got that right. Because you're always looking, like when I hire coaches, I certainly want some knowledgeable people for sure, but I'm looking at their heart. I want to know their heart. I want to know their soul. I want to know, are you going to love kids? That's first and foremost. I'll sacrifice, put it this way, football, X's and O's and getting on a board. Some coaches will mark or whip you to death. Okay. And the thing about X's and O's, it's a learned thing. So if I told you, Aaron, hey, Aaron, we're going to hire you. You've never ran the wing T. Go learn about it. Get a book, watch some videos, talk to somebody, and we're going to install it. You could do it with your eyes shut. It would take a little study and everything else, but you can't teach the heart, and you can't teach the soul, and you can't teach being genuine, and you can't teach love. You either got that or you don't, you know, and that's what I saw in you, you know, and I try to surround myself with other coaches like that.
Yeah. And I remember you telling me that. That was exactly what you'd said. Because I remember walking back out to the parking lot after. I was like, we didn't talk like, do you know if I can even coach football? Or and you're like, you got the personality, kid. I'll see you. Don't be wearing that suit. I just remember Doug not letting off about me being in a suit and tie.
Oh, hey, I just took one off, okay, before the podcast, and it's just not natural. I understand.
Yeah, no doubt. And so kind of shifting gears a little bit, looking to move into kind of a new leadership role, running for, I know we started trying to get set up months ago before you'd even announced this, that just couldn't get our schedules to match up. And I finally was able to do it. And so running for mayor president of East Baton Rouge Parish. So tell us a little bit, what inspired you to want to do that, and just go from there.
Yeah, well, I live in Baton Rouge now. I moved back here in 2016. I had lived in Central for 10 years. And when I was out there coaching, I got approached a couple of times about the potential for running for office out there. And I dismissed it every time. I said, nah, man, I'm a ball coach. I like fooling with kids. I don't want to fool with that. But the more I got asked about it, and the more I watched and I listened. I said, maybe one day that there could come a day that might interest me. I noticed I never wanted to be a principal, ever. So, but running for public office and say mayor, president position or whatever, I told my wife when we moved to Baton Rouge, I said, there may be a day that I want to do that. And she says, well, Sid, because I was still the football coach at Central. And she said, but you have to live in the town you do that at. I said, I know, but there may be a day, we head back that way. We moved to Baton Rouge to be closer to my family and closer to I have 2 sons with autism.
Right.
And to be closer to their doctors and all that. So anyway, I just started paying more attention in Baton Rouge and following more. I became really apolitical, Aaron. I didn't vote for a while. I mean, and it was conscious. I just decided I was going to dedicate my life and what I was doing to what I've been doing, and that's saving one kid at a time and doing what we do. But I was getting disgusted and with politics, nationally and locally. And I kept following. And then, like the Baton Rouge, this is the capital city of Louisiana, and I live in it now. And I just think a lot of things are untended to. And so I broached the subject 3 years ago to my wife and to a couple of friends that, I might one day, I'm not talking about in Central running for Metro Council there, or I'm talking about mayor president of East Baton Rouge Parish. And I put it in a notebook and I said, we'll see. And I kept following. And I think we all know that we have a crime problem in the city, and I'm not blaming anybody. So before I go any further, I'm not into that, the dirty part of this. But we have a lot of blight. Homelessness is terrible. Governor Jindal, way back when, shut down all the psychiatric treatment facilities. I mean, as far as hospitals go. And we just got a problem in Baton Rouge. It's not clean. It's not shiny. It's not sparkly. I mean, I'll ask listeners, if you're sitting and you're watching this, do you feel safe in Baton Rouge? And if the answer is not unequivocally yes, there's a problem. But I'll tell you what really, this thing was coming to the surface of me running for this office. But I had a football player. He was 14 years old, 4A football, starting cornerback for me. Beautiful kid. Had a 22 on the ACT as a 7th grader. Bright, smart. And this was this year. We get to the Christmas holidays. He turned 15 on Christmas Day. And on New Year's Day, him and some friends were walking down the street and they were gunned down. And my guy died, 15 years old. And then that just opened my eyes even wider. And I looked, it hit because I knew this kid. I mean, I'm coaching this kid, right? But it happens every day and every night, and I just started researching stuff and looking at the violent crimes. And then there's a lady I met, Jennifer Richardson, who has an organization, Keep Tigertown Beautiful. And I started looking at that, at the stuff they were cleaning up. If you clean it up litter, a lot of times you'll find cups or burger wrappers or whatever. But I got to see the syringes and the drug paraphernalia, and that comes from the homeless side. Now I'll go all the way to this. The homeless folks, they're human beings too. They need to be taken care of, but a lot of them that are on the street have mental illness, therefore the need for psychiatric help. We're not helping them. Now there are some great organizations, St. Vincent de Paul, the Salvation Army. Those doors are open, but a lot that you see on the street begging are not allowed in those facilities because they don't act right, or they may be engaged in criminal behavior or drug use as well. So it's a big circle. Think of what I've just talked about: homelessness, crime, blight. And because somebody asked me, they said, Coach, if you get in there, how can you intelligently speak on economic development and infrastructure? Here again, remember when I talked about football being a learned thing?
Yep.
It's the same thing. But what I looked at was if you don't fix 1, 2, and 3, the crime, the blight, the homelessness, and you don't fix all those things, who wants to come to Baton Rouge for economic development? You got to fix that first. It's I could have the best 3 wide receivers in the whole world, but if I'm the quarterback, they do me no good. And so, building, because when I decided, when I looked like I was going to run, I had to ask myself, can I go do this job? I mean, I need that. So I dug into it. And the answer I came up with was unequivocally yes. It's common sense. And how I build a football staff. I have an OC, a DC, a special team coordinator, a weight room guy, a fundraise coordinator. Well, you put the most brilliant people on the right seats on the bus on your administration team. You trust them and you let them go do their job. So how it all came to be, I finally had to, okay, am I going to do this? And I pulled the trigger, and I'm in it to win it.
Yeah. No, and that makes a lot of sense too, Coach. As you said it, football being a learned thing. And this is one that I'll say I definitely took as a young coach, was just, once you learn how to help develop people, it's not about the game itself. It's not about the political agenda itself. It's about the people that you can help influence and touch, and trying to help establish and building leaders in that. And so, yeah, I mean, it made me think as you're going through just the amount of different lives that I know you've touched, and I've got a couple of other people that I mentor in business as well, and I'm always talking with them on leadership levels, the levels of leadership that they have through by John Maxwell. If y'all hadn't read that book, excellent book. And I was telling one of the ladies that I mentor today about our recording, and I was like, Coach Sid might be one of the few level 5 leaders that I actually know, because he's developing leaders who are developing leaders. So he's mentoring and working with leaders. And so I do think I'm all for it, Coach. I love that you're running for it. I said, if there's a guy that could do this, Sid Edwards is the guy.
Well, I appreciate it. And, in the beginning, I had doubts like, okay, I'm talking about, I know I can do the job, but can I win the election? And, my opponents had 1.3 million between them. I had $27.42 and a couple of boudin balls, and, going out there. But our campaign has grown. It's grassroots. Our volunteers have been great. My family's been outstanding, helping me, and we feel we got a chance, to do it. And it's a thing where I'm going to be me. Like, some of my team get worried when I speak or tell me, don't say this, don't say, no, that not, I'm being me. And I think, why not give somebody else a chance? And listen, I'm not chopping. Let me say this about Mayor Broom and what she's done. She has had to endure a lot in her tenure. I mean, a lot. When you consider COVID and you consider the Alton Sterling situation and the protests and all, and I respect all that. But to me, a lot of it's, I got to go back to the coaching analogy. I was the head football coach at Central for 17 years. They wanted a change. They wanted someone new. Well, I had gotten comfortable and I didn't want to change, right? But what happens, just sometimes it just fresh air, a different perspective. And I think, my opponents, they've all had chances. And I think, and here again, I'm a credit, they've done some good things. But why not give somebody else a shot? Let's see what we can do. And here again, Baton Rouge doesn't need a politician. You know what it needs, Aaron? A coach.
Needs a football coach.
Yeah. Well, it needs a coach. The city needs a coach there. To describe myself, I feel I am a healer and I'm a turnaround specialist. And being in North Baton Rouge has been an education. There's a part of Baton Rouge that nobody knows about. And you may say, oh, no, I know North Baton Rouge. I go to Tony Seafood. But in North Baton Rouge, there's more than Plank Road. Plank Road is the clothes on the body. And what's really sad is we have, the Greater Baton Rouge Zoo, is out in Baker, Metro Airport, the Southern University. I mean, there are some, anchors. But if anyone ever wants to take a tour with me, give me a call. And I can take you to places that you never would fathom is in the capital city of Baton Rouge. And I'm running for the whole parish, but a lot of my heart and what I'm running for is for the least amongst us. The people that don't know, don't have.
Absolutely, Coach. And so as we're kind of starting to wind down, hitting towards the top of the hour, one that I like to ask people, I mean, you hit on your why, but what's a question that I should have asked you that I didn't ask you through our time together?
Under what window you want it to fall? The mayor's race.
I mean, it could be coaching. It could be for the mayor's race. That just could be personal development. It could be. It's up to you, Coach.
I don't know about a particular question. I'll say I can, because we did ask, early on, like my mentors and who helped mold me and all those things. And I talked about Father Joe and the coaches, the first coaches, that I was with. But I can tell you something. In this race I'm in, while trying, I mean, I got 4 children, 3 grandchildren. I have 2 of my boys have autism. They're 33 and 23 years old. And what's kind of molded me from the leadership standpoint of who I am, as much as anyone, have been those 2 boys. Because I look at people, I look at my football players, we're running, say, 1050s, and they're struggling and they can't do it. And I, hear the word can't, they can't do this, they can't do that. And then I think God put those 2 boys in my wife and I's life for a reason. Number one, I felt God trusted us with them. Hey, now here's the trick part of it, God. If you're going to give someone with autism, try not to give it to a football coach who makes, pauper's salary, but us having them, my patience is so much better with the young men I coach. And I don't want to hear can't. My youngest son can't speak, right? So you got to tell me you can't push out 3 more reps. So it's just a perspective. And I think it's helped shape and mold me. Like things that happen. You coach with me. There could be complete chaos in the office. Everything's going crazy. We fumbled the football. There's a fight, on the backside of the building. And my demeanor is usually the same. And it's because of the home training I got dealing with, with what my wife and I, have to do. And it's a blessing. God chose us and we're blessed. So that's just a little bit more about me and what makes me tick and how I came to be who I am.
Yeah. And I will attest to that too, because I was fortunate enough to be able to work with you during one of the great seasons. I was part of that 2018
Right.
when we lost to Destrehan in the semis.
Yeah.
That was, but then I know whenever then I guess whenever I came back, because you'd sent me off to go with Neil to Zachary, and then I mean those I tell people those were vital times for me, being able to go and learn under a bunch of different people. And then when I finally got back, that y'all had won, I think it was 6 or 7 district championships in a row, and then we went 3-7.
Right. Oh yeah, very humbling.
Oh man,
very humbling.
And I just remember. Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's what I remember. I remember, okay, this is the same guy that only losing 2 games out of the 14 we played, that and we only won 3 out of the 10 we played. Being able to see that was so crucial as still a young leader. I mean, that was over 10 years ago now. That's hard to believe that was that long ago. That to see how to lead in success and then how to build. And when you're getting punched in the mouth, what are you going to do?
Right.
You go tuck tail and run, or are we going to stand here and figure it out?
Yeah, that's the key. The key is when you have a season like that, where I would fight tooth and nail, is for the boys not to quit. And rarely they did. Rarely. I mean, it happened before. Sometimes, you get beat down a little bit, and it's like, oh man, because the general public don't know the investment these kids put in. And when you invest, you expect to get something back. And when you don't, it's tough. And that is a great opportunity for teaching leadership and teaching what and what not to do.
Absolutely, Coach. And so if the fine folks watching the show want to find out more about Coach Sid and what he stands for as far as running for mayor president, how do they go about reaching you?
I have a website, sidforthewin.com. That's sidforthewin.com. I have a Facebook page as well. So go to my website, go to our Facebook page. There's links on there. We're going to be unveiling a plan of action soon. We didn't want to do it prematurely. But yeah, a lot of good information on that, sidforthewin.com.
Right. And guys, I'm going to make sure to put that link below. So that way you got it right here. You don't have to try to remember it. So sidforthewin.com. Coach Sid, I appreciate hearing the lessons that you've learned throughout here, and wishing you the best of luck in this race.
Hey, thank you for having me on. It's good to see you. I'd rather see you in person, but appreciate it being on. You keep leading, brother, and you keep doing you. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. I'll say we'll get you on the next one. What an awesome episode. Coach Sid, as always, is amazing. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. We covered a lot of great topics. Talking about, coaching is more than just wins and losses. It's about developing leaders and the important role that mentorship plays that is crucial in developing your role as a young leader. And that, leadership, it's not just about what you get out of it. It's about serving others and putting their needs first. We talked about how a successful coach and leader has to adapt and learn from challenges. And it's important to make sure you measure your success in terms of personal growth and development. As the mayor or running for mayor for East Baton Rouge Parish, Coach Sid talked about how vital it is to address the community and helping them with economic concerns and development. But I think most importantly, we talked about how a leader must have a genuine heart and genuine care for those that they lead. And guys, if you're looking for leadership or personal growth development and training for yourself, that could be for your team, or at an event that you're putting on, reach out to me. I'd love to be a part of that and help you as you pursue your own journey. All of my contact information, it's listed below. And remember, you don't have to be great to get started, but you got to get started to be great. So keep leading, keep growing, and keep innovating. Until next time, stay inspired and connected, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Clark Connection Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Clark Connection Podcast, where my goal is to add value to you. Make sure you like and follow the show. You can also connect with me via my website, coachaclark.com, or on all socials at coach_A_Clark. The links are in the description. Huge thanks to my sponsors, Wayne with 7K Metal Associates, Bobbie at A Comfy Quest LLC, and Andrew at Automate Integrate Professional Services. We look forward to bringing you more great content. See you next week.